The grand hall of the Intergalactic War Council hummed with a peculiar silence. Massive crystalline viewports surrounded the hexagonal chamber, looking out onto the shattered remains of what had once been a star. The asteroid upon which the hall was built orbited through the stellar graveyard, a reminder to all who gathered here of the price of cosmic conflict. Captain Kira Selen stood alone in the antechamber, her hand instinctively touching the faded Earth Remnant Fleet insignia on her shoulder. 237 years had passed since Earth's fall, yet the weight of that tragedy felt heavier today than ever before. "The Council is ready for you, Captain," said a slender Zolothian attendant, their translucent skin revealing the intricate pattern of neural pathways beneath. "Though I must remind you, the protocols are clear. You may observe only." Kira nodded sharply. She knew the protocols well enough. Every war council for centuries had maintained one empty seat, a symbolic gesture to honor the dead of Earth, the civilization whose sacrifice had once saved the council itself from annihilation, but no human had ever been recognized to fill it. "I understand my place," she replied, straightening her midnight blue uniform. The last uniform of its kind, perhaps, in the entire universe. The massive doors parted with a whisper. Inside, 24 representatives of the four great empires sat in tiered rows around the central hexagonal table. The militaristic Thoraxians with their armored exoskeletons, the telepathic Vorazol, their elongated heads swaying slightly as they communicated silently among themselves. The amphibious Namari, whose translucent breathing chambers pulsed rhythmically, and the analytical Zolothians, their crystalline appendages reflecting prismatic light across the chamber. And there it was, the empty chair, positioned at the exact geometric center of the hexagon, smaller than the others, unadorned, the chair of the dead, as it was called in whispers throughout the galaxy. Council President Lixara, a senior Voreal diplomat whose skin had faded to pale ivory with age, rose from her position. The chamber quieted instantly. "We convene this council under Article 7 of the Galactic Accords," she announced, her voice amplified throughout the chamber. "The matter before us concerns territorial disputes in the Outer Rim and the alarming militarization of—" Kira stepped forward into the light. A murmur rippled through the gathering. "Who disrupts these proceedings?" demanded General Vraxor, the Thoraxian representative, his exoskeleton plates clicking with irritation. "Captain Kira Selen of the United Earth Remnant Fleet," she answered, her voice steady despite the 24 pairs of alien eyes now fixed upon her. "I claim observation rights under the Accords of Remembrance." General Vraxor rose, his massive form towering nearly 3 meters tall. "There is no Earth Remnant Fleet. Earth is dead. Human. Your presence here is a mockery." "Yet I stand before you," Kira replied, moving deliberately toward the empty chair. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber as she placed her hand upon it. Touching the chair of the dead was considered a grave taboo. Several guards moved forward, weapon systems humming to life on their armored frames. "Hold," said President Lixara, raising a slender hand. Her multifaceted eyes studied Kira with evident curiosity. "The human invokes the Accords of Remembrance. This is unprecedented." Kira met the president's gaze. "With respect, nothing about this situation is without precedent. Earth's voice deserves to be heard." "Earth has no voice." General Vraxor slammed his armored fist against the table. "It is dust and memory, nothing more." "Yet its memory sits at your table," Kira countered, her hand still resting on the chair's smooth surface. "If you honor the dead with symbols, what do you owe to those who still live?" A profound silence fell across the chamber. President Lixara's head tilted, the characteristic gesture of a Voreul in deep contemplation. Finally, she spoke. "Captain Selen will be recognized as the representative of Earth Remnant." Chaos erupted. The Thoraxian delegation rose in unison, their armored plates flaring in threat displays. Several Nymeri representatives began emitting rapid distress pheromones that filled the air with the scent of bitter almonds. Only the Zolothians remained outwardly calm, though their crystalline appendages vibrated at frequencies that suggested intense computation. Kira didn't wait for permission. She sat in the chair of the dead. This is an outrage! General Vraxer's voice boomed over the cacophony. Humans are a defeated species, a dangerous one. Their inclusion threatens the very stability of the Council. President Lixara raised her hands for silence. The accords are clear. Any surviving civilization that once held Council membership retains observation rights. She turned to Kira. Though I must clarify, you may observe only, Captain. You have no vote in our deliberations. Kira nodded. It was more than she had expected. Far more. Thank you, President. Earth acknowledges these terms. General Vraxer leaned forward, his armored faceplates shifting to reveal rows of sensory organs that pulsed with anger. President Lixara, I formally request a security assessment of the human presence. Their kind has brought nothing but destruction to the galaxy. Ambassador Rith. Even of the Nimeri Federation rose, water droplets cascading from his amphibious form as he moved. I second the Thoraxian motion, though for different reasons. If humans still exist in numbers sufficient to maintain a fleet, we must understand their capabilities and intentions. Kira felt the momentum shifting against her. She had expected resistance, but the speed with which it coalesced threatened to undo her hard-won position before she could even begin her true mission. The Council will take this matter under advisement, President Lixara announced. In the interim, we shall proceed with our agenda, the Outer Rim disputes. If I may, Kira interrupted, standing once more. Since my status is now in question, perhaps I should address the Council's concerns directly. President Lixara hesitated, then nodded. Proceed, Captain. But be brief. Kira took a deep breath. Everything depended on what she said next. 237 years ago, Earth fell in the defense of this council. Our fleet was shattered, stopping the Vorax horde from reaching your worlds. We expected no rescue, no recognition. It was our duty as council members. She paused, looking around the chamber. What remains of humanity exists on 14 colony vessels and a handful of outposts in the uncharted regions beyond your borders. We are few, but we endure. We ask not for charity or special treatment, but for the right to help prevent another catastrophe like the one that nearly destroyed us all. A thoughtful silence followed her words. Even General Vraxor seemed momentarily subdued. From the Zolothian delegation, a figure rose. Unlike the others of her kind, whose crystalline structures tended toward cool blues and greens, this one's form shimmered with warm amber tones. I am Archivist Mura of the Zolothian Historical Institute. Our records confirm the humans' account of Earth's last stand against the Vorax. Their sacrifice bought time for the Council's evacuation. She tilted her fasted head toward Kira. What the human does not mention is that by Council estimates, 99.7% of their species perished in that engagement. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. A noble sacrifice, conceded Ambassador Rith even, his gill slits pulsing rapidly. But that was generations ago. What does Earth seek now? Kira straightened. Information, Ambassador. Intelligence reports from our scouts suggest movement in the sectors surrounding the dead zone. Activity consistent with Vorax resurgence. The chamber erupted once more. The Vorax horde was the stuff of nightmares. A semi-sentient collective organism that consumed entire civilizations, incorporating their biological and technological uniqueness into its ever-evolving form. If they had indeed returned. This is precisely the kind of destabilizing claim I feared. General Vraxer's armored frame vibrated with fury. The human seeks to manipulate us with phantom threats. I have brought evidence, Kira replied calmly, retrieving a small data crystal from her uniform pocket. Sensor logs, spectral analyses, movement patterns, all consistent with Vorax activity. President Lixara gestured, and a Voreul attendant glided forward to take the crystal. The Council will review your evidence, Captain. Until then, you are granted provisional observer status. These proceedings are adjourned until tomorrow. As the delegates filed out, many casting suspicious glances in her direction, Kira remained seated. The first hurdle had been cleared, barely, but she knew the real challenges were just beginning. Somewhere in this council's archives lay the truth about Earth's fall, about the ancient treaties that bound the four empires, and about the coming threat that none of them seemed willing to acknowledge. A shadow fell across her, and she looked up to see Archivist Mura, the amber-hued Zolothian, standing before her. "That was quite an entrance, Captain," Mura said, her voice a harmonious resonance produced by vibrations in her crystalline structure. Not many would dare to claim the empty chair. Kira stood, finding herself eye-level with the middle of Mura's torso. Zolothians typically stood over 2 meters tall. "I didn't come here to make friends, Archivist." "Evidently not." Mura's faceted head caught the light, sending prismatic patterns dancing across Kira's uniform. "But you may find you need them nonetheless. The Thoraxians will not rest until they've discredited you, or worse." "Are you offering friendship, then?" Kira asked, unable to keep the skepticism from her voice. "I offer truth, Captain. As an archivist, it's my function." Mura's crystalline fingers produced a subtle chiming sound as they touched together. "The Council archives contain records dating back to Earth's admission. If there are answers to be found about your world's fate, they would be there." Kira studied the Zolothian carefully. "And you'd help me access these archives? Why?" "Because something doesn't align in our historical records about Earth's fall," Mura replied. "And unlike my more politically minded colleagues, inconsistencies disturb me greatly." She paused. "Meet me in Archive Chamber 3, Level 7, after the evening cycle ends. Come alone." Before Kira could respond, Mura glided away, her crystalline form blending with the other departing delegates. Kira remained still, her mind racing. She had come to the council seeking allies, but she hadn't expected to find one so quickly, or from such an unlikely source. The Zolothians were known for their detached analytical approach to galactic affairs. They rarely involved themselves in matters that didn't directly impact their crystalline worlds, which made Mura's interest all the more intriguing and potentially suspicious. Still, Kira had few options. If Mura could provide access to the archives, it might save precious time. And time was the one resource Earth's remnants couldn't afford to waste. The accommodations provided for her were sparse by council standards. A small chamber with adaptive environmental controls and a nutrient dispenser calibrated for human physiology. Basic, but far better than what she was accustomed to aboard the aging colony vessels. Kira used the time to transmit an encrypted status update to Fleet Command. Her message was deliberately vague, in case it was intercepted. Initial contact established, proceeding with primary objective, await further communication. As the station's lighting dimmed to simulate night cycle, Kira made her way through the labyrinthine corridors toward Archive Chamber 3. The council station was massive, an artificial world unto itself, with sectors dedicated to each of the four empire species. She moved through the Zolothian Quarter, where the architecture favored crystalline geometries and lighting that shifted through spectrums beyond human vision. Few noticed her passage, a fortunate side effect of being from a species most believed extinct. Those who did see her quickly averted their gaze, as if acknowledging her existence might somehow be contagious. Archive Chamber 3 proved to be a vast rotunda, its walls lined with data crystal arrays that stretched from floor to ceiling. In the center stood a complex interface terminal, currently dormant. The chamber appeared empty. "Archivist Mura," Kira called softly. A section of the wall that Kira had mistaken for another data array suddenly shifted, revealing the amber-hued form of the Zolothian. "You came. Good. We haven't much time." "Time for what, exactly?" Kira asked, moving closer to the terminal. "What are you hoping to find?" "The truth about the empty chair," Mura replied, her crystalline fingers already interfacing with the terminal. The system hummed to life, projecting holographic displays around them. For centuries, it has stood as a symbol of Earth's sacrifice. Yet now a human appears, claiming Earth still exists in some form. This contradiction must be resolved. "It's hardly a contradiction," Kira said. "Earth itself was destroyed, But humanity survived. Barely. Perhaps. Mura's facets refracted light as she tilted her head. But council records from that era are inconsistent. There are gaps, sealed files, redactions, unusual for our normally meticulous archives. The holographic displays shifted, showing timeline charts and document indices. Much of the information was highlighted in red, indicating restricted access. Can you bypass the restrictions? Kira asked, watching Mura work. Some. My position grants me certain privileges. The Zolothian's fingers moved in complex patterns across the interface. But the highest security protocols will require authorization codes I don't possess. Kira frowned. Then this may be a waste of time. Not necessarily. Mura brought up a new display, a star chart showing the region where Earth had once been. Look here. These are the official records of the Vorex incursion that led to Earth's destruction. Note the fleet positions, the battle movements. Kira studied the tactical display, her military training allowing her to interpret the complex patterns. Something wasn't right. These formations, they don't make sense. The Vorex never used coordinated attack patterns like this. Their strength was in overwhelming numbers and biological adaptation, not tactics. Precisely. Mira agreed, her voice dropping to a lower resonance. Yet the official record states that the Vorex developed new strategic capabilities that made them far more dangerous, capabilities that apparently vanished after Earth's destruction. What are you suggesting? Kira asked, though she was beginning to form her own suspicions. I suggest nothing. Captain. I merely observe inconsistencies. Mira's crystalline structure dimmed slightly, a Zolothian expression of caution. But consider this. What if the threat that destroyed Earth wasn't entirely what the Council claimed? What if... The archive chamber doors slid open with a hiss. Both Kira and Mura turned to see a contingent of Thraxian security officers entering, led by none other than General Vraxar himself. Well. Vraxar's armored faceplates shifted into what passed for a Thraxian smile, a predatory expression that revealed sensory organs pulsing with malicious satisfaction. The human and a Zolothian archivist, accessing restricted files in the middle of the night cycle. How very interesting. Mura stepped forward, her crystalline form now pulsing with amber light. General Vraxar, I am conducting authorized historical research with the Earth representative. Authorized by whom? Vraxar demanded, his massive form blocking the exit. Not by the Council Security Directorate, certainly. He gestured to his guards. Detain them both, the human for espionage, the Zolothian for complicity. Kira tensed, her hand instinctively moving toward the small defensive tool concealed in her uniform. A last resort she had hoped not to need. This is a violation of diplomatic protocol. General, I have observer status. Observers who access restricted military archives forfeit their protections. Vraxar replied. His guards moved forward, weapon systems humming to activation. Stop! The command came from the doorway behind Vraxar. All turned to see President Lixara entering, flanked by her own Voreul security detail. What is the meaning of this, General? You have no authority to order arrests in the Archives Quarter. Vraxar's armored plates clicked in agitation. Madam President, we caught the human and this archivist accessing restricted battle records. The security implications are for the full council to assess. Lixara finished firmly. Her multifaceted eyes shifted to Kira. Though I must say, Captain, your actions suggest a concerning lack of transparency. What exactly were you seeking? Kira met the president's gaze steadily. The truth about Earth's fall, Madam President, the historical record contains discrepancies. Discrepancies that threaten security protocols established over 2 centuries ago. Vraxar interjected, protocols established for good reason. Lixara raised a slender hand for silence. Archivist Mura, explain your involvement. Mura's crystalline structure pulsed with measured light patterns, a Zolothian indication of careful thought. As chief historical archivist, It is my duty to maintain the accuracy of our records. The appearance of a human representative raises questions about our historical accounts of Earth's destruction. I was conducting a preliminary review to reconcile these contradictions. A convenient explanation, Vraxer growled. A reasonable one, Lixara countered. She studied both Kira and Mura for a long moment. No arrests will be made tonight. However, Captain Selen, you are restricted to your quarters when not attending official council sessions. Archivist Mura, you will submit a formal request to the Historical Review Committee before conducting any further research on this matter. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Is that understood? Both nodded, though Kira felt a surge of frustration. They had been so close to uncovering something significant. General Vraxir, your security personnel will escort Captain Selen to her quarters. Lixara continued. I trust they will do so with all the respect due to a council observer. Vraxir's armored form seemed to swell with suppressed rage, but he inclined his head in reluctant acknowledgement. As you wish, Madam President. As Kira was led away, she caught a final glimpse of Murray. The Zolothian archivist's facets flashed briefly in a pattern that Kira couldn't interpret, but she suspected it was a message. Whatever secrets lay hidden in the archives, Mura wasn't ready to abandon their search. Back in her quarters, under the watchful eyes of Thraxian guards stationed outside her door, Kira weighed her options. The confrontation in the archives had accelerated matters, for better or worse. General Vraxir now had even more reason to push for her expulsion from the council, while Mura's involvement suggested there were indeed secrets worth uncovering. She needed to act quickly. Tomorrow's council session would likely determine whether she could remain on the station at all. Her communication device chimed softly, an incoming transmission on a secure fleet frequency. She activated it, wondering which of her superiors was checking in. Instead, a text-only message appeared, originating from somewhere within the station. The answers you seek aren't in the archives. Meet me at Observation Deck 17 during third shift. Come alone, a friend. Kira frowned. It could be a trap. Likely was, in fact. But she was running out of options and time. If there was even a chance of gaining an ally or information, she would need to evade her guards first. Fortunately, centuries of surviving as a hunted species had made humans particularly adept at disappearing when necessary. The council reconvened the following day with a palpable tension hanging in the air. Kira took her place at the empty chair, aware of the stares and whispers surrounding her. General Vraxir had clearly been busy. The Thraxian delegation sat in rigid unity, while several Nimari representatives were engaged in intense pheromone communication that suggested heated debate. President Lixara called the session to order. Before we proceed with our agenda, there is a motion from the Thraxian delegation regarding the status of the Earth representative. General Vraxir stood, his armored exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights. Madam President, honorable delegates, the events of last night confirm what many of us already suspected. The human presence represents a security threat to this council. I move that Captain Selen's observer status be revoked immediately, and that she be remanded to Thraxian custody for full interrogation regarding her activities and the true extent of human survival. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Kira kept her expression neutral, though her heart raced. This was developing exactly as she'd feared. Ambassador Rith. Even of the Nimari rose next, water droplets cascading as he moved. The Nimari Federation shares some of General Vraxir's concerns, though not his proposed solution. We believe the human presence warrants careful monitoring, but not detention. We propose instead that Captain Selen remain under guard but be allowed to present her evidence regarding the alleged Vorex resurgence. A small victory, Kira thought. At least the Nimari weren't calling for her immediate arrest. From the Voreul delegation, a new figure rose, not President Lixara, but an elder diplomat whose pale skin bore the distinctive marking patterns of a high-caste telepath. The Voreul conclave proposes a third option. If humans truly survive in the numbers Captain Selen suggests, they represent not merely a historical footnote, but a potential diplomatic partner. We advocate for the provisional recognition of Earth remnant status. pending verification of her claims. Kira barely contained her surprise. The Voreul were traditionally the most cautious of the four empires, rarely taking bold positions on contested issues. General Vraxer's armored plates flared in anger. This is outrageous. The human has shown nothing but deception since her arrival. She was caught accessing restricted military archives, and now we're discussing diplomatic recognition? We have reviewed the evidence Captain Selene provided regarding Vorex activity. The Voreul elder continued calmly. Our preliminary analysis suggests her concerns may have merit. If the Vorex are indeed returning, the Council would be foolish to reject potential allies, even human ones. And what does the Zolothian delegation say? President Lixara asked, turning to the crystalline beings who had remained silent throughout the exchange. To Kira's surprise, it was not Mura but an elder Zolothian who rose, his crystal structure a deep sapphire blue. The Zolothian consensus has calculated probabilities for various outcomes in this matter. We find insufficient data to support either expulsion or recognition at this time. However, we note that historical precedent favors inclusivity in times of potential crisis. We abstain from direct advocacy but will accept the majority position. A typically Zolothian response, Kira thought, analytically sound but politically non-committal. President Lixara nodded. It seems we have three positions before us. Rather than proceed to an immediate vote, I propose a compromise. Captain Selene will be permitted to present her complete evidence regarding the Vorex threat at tomorrow's session. Following this presentation, the Council will vote on her status. Until then, she will remain under observation, but not detention. The Thraxian Empire objects. General Vraxer's voice boomed across the chamber. Your objection is noted, General. Lixara replied firmly. But as this is a procedural matter, the President's authority prevails. The session is adjourned until tomorrow. As the delegates dispersed, Kira remained seated, processing what had just occurred. She had gained a day, precious time to pursue her true mission. But the walls were closing in. Tomorrow's presentation would need to be compelling indeed to sway the Council, especially without access to the archives she had hoped to explore with Mura. Speaking of the archivist, Kira noticed that Mura had been conspicuously silent during the proceedings, sitting rigidly among the Zolothian delegation without participating in their crystalline communion. Had the previous night's confrontation caused her trouble with her own people? As Kira rose to leave, a Voreul attendant approached her. Captain Selene, President Lixara requests your presence in her private chambers. Kira nodded, following the attendant through a series of corridors she hadn't previously accessed. Unlike the austere public spaces of the Council station, the presidential sector was adorned with biological art forms unique to Voreul culture. Living sculptures that pulsed and shifted in response to nearby thoughts. President Lixara was waiting in a circular chamber whose walls displayed real-time images of various sectors throughout Council space. She dismissed her attendants with a gesture. Captain, I've bought you time, but the political currents are shifting rapidly, Lixara said without preamble. General Vraxer has been in communication with his military command. There are rumors of Thraxian fleet movements near the borders of unclaimed space, where you say your remnant fleet hides. Kira felt a chill. Are they planning a preemptive strike? The Thraxians have long advocated for a final solution to what they call the human question. Lixara replied, Until now, it was theoretical, hunting down rumors and shadows. Your appearance has given them a tangible target. Why are you telling me this? Kira asked, studying the ancient Voreul's expression. Lixara's multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer with internal light. Because 2 centuries ago, the Voreul conclave voted against sending aid to Earth during the Vorex attack. It is a decision many of us have come to regret. She paused. And because I sense truth in your warnings about the Vorex resurgence, our telepathic scouts have detected disturbances at the edges of known space, patterns consistent with your claims. Then help me convince the Council, Kira urged. Together, we could. It's not so simple, Lixara interrupted. There are complications. Historical entanglements that you don't yet understand. She moved to a control panel and activated a secure channel. I can offer you limited access to certain classified files, not the complete archives, but enough to help you piece together what you need for tomorrow's presentation. A data crystal emerged from the console. Lixara handed it to Kira. This contains intelligence reports from our deep space observation posts. Use it wisely, Captain. And be careful whom you trust, even among those who seem to be your allies. Her gaze was penetrating. The game being played here has rules established long before either of us took our places at the council table. Thank you, Madam President, Kira said, pocketing the crystal. But I have to ask, why take this risk for me? Lixara's expression softened slightly. Perhaps because after 2 centuries of politics, I find honesty refreshing. Or perhaps because I've lived long enough to recognize when old mistakes are about to be repeated. She gestured toward the door. Now go. You have preparations to make, and I have a council to manage. As Kira left the presidential chambers, her mind raced with new questions. Lixara's assistance was unexpected, but her warnings about trust were troubling. Who could she rely on? Mura had seemed genuine in the archives, but the Zolothian delegation's neutral stance today raised doubts. And then there was the mysterious message inviting her to Observation Deck 17, an invitation she still intended to accept, despite the risks. One thing was increasingly clear: the story of Earth's fall was far more complicated than the official history suggested. And whatever the truth might be, powerful factions within the council were determined to keep it buried. Her quarters had been upgraded, or perhaps downgraded, depending on one's perspective. The new room was larger but contained obvious surveillance devices and a door that could be locked from the outside. A gilded cage rather than a cell, but a cage nonetheless. Kira waited until the station's night cycle was well underway before making her move. The Thoraxian guards outside her door were a challenge, but not an insurmountable one. Using techniques developed over generations of human survival, she accessed the environmental controls and initiated a localized atmospheric density shift. Nothing dangerous, but enough to create a momentary distraction as the guard's sensory organs detected the change. In that brief window, she slipped through a maintenance access panel she had quietly prepared earlier, disappearing into the station's service corridors. Observation Deck 17 was located in a seldom-used section of the station, facing away from the shattered star and toward the vast emptiness beyond council space. When Kira arrived, the deck appeared deserted, a circular platform surrounded by transparent barriers that offered an unimpeded view of distant stars. I was beginning to think you wouldn't come, said a voice from the shadows. Kira spun around, her hand moving toward her concealed weapon. Show yourself! A figure stepped forward, a Ninmeri, but not one Kira recognized from the council sessions. This one's amphibious form was marked with distinctive blue phosphorescent patterns, indicating specialized deep space adaptation. My name is Tlon, the Nimari said, his gill slits pulsing gently. I serve as science officer aboard the exploration vessel Tidal Seeker, and I have information you need. Why help me? Kira asked, maintaining a cautious distance. Tlon's large, liquid eyes reflected the starlight. Because I was there, Captain, 2 cycles ago, on the edge of the dead zone. We detected the signature patterns, the ones your evidence describes. Vorex activity, without question. And your superiors dismissed it, Kira guessed. Worse, they classified it, ordered our entire crew to silence. Tlon's skin rippled with what Kira recognized as the Nimari expression of distress. But that's not all. Before communication was cut, we detected something else, a signal. Not Vorex, not Council. Something different. Human? Kira asked, her heart racing. Unknown. But it originated from coordinates within what was once Earth's solar system. Tlon extracted a small data device from a pouch in his skin. This contains our complete sensor logs. Unredacted. Use it, Captain. The Council must know the truth, whatever that may be. Kira accepted the device. This is a significant risk for you. Tlon, Why take it? The Nimeri's phosphorescent markings pulsed in a pattern that suggested deep emotion. My ancestor was among those who argued against aiding Earth during the Vorex incursion. Our historical records indicate he regretted that decision until his final dissolution. Perhaps this is my way of balancing that cosmic ledger. A sudden alarm blared throughout the station. Talon's gill slits flared in alarm. "They've discovered your absence," he said urgently. "You must go. There's a maintenance shaft behind the observation panel. It leads to the diplomatic sector. You can lose pursuit there." "Thank you," Kira said, already moving toward the panel. "If we survive this, I won't forget your help." "If we survive, Captain," Tlon replied gravely. "Remember that not all Nimari abandoned Earth in its hour of need, nor would we do so again." Kira slipped into the maintenance shaft as the sound of approaching security teams echoed from the corridor outside. She navigated the narrow passageways by memory, having studied the station schematics extensively before her mission. The diplomatic sector offered numerous hiding places among its myriad cultural installations and private meeting chambers. As she emerged from the shaft into an empty corridor, her communication device vibrated with an urgent message, not from Fleet Command, but from Archivist Mura. "Security alert throughout the station. Thraxian forces claiming authority to apprehend you. Get to sub-level 6, Historical Repository Delta. Emergency access code, Xenon Archival 793. I'll meet you there." Kira hesitated. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford, but options were limited. And despite her caution, something about the Zolothian archivist seemed genuine. Decision made. She changed course, using service corridors and maintenance tubes to work her way down to sub-level 6. The historical repository was a massive vault complex that housed physical artifacts rather than digital records, relics from countless civilizations preserved for study. The access panel accepted Mura's code, sliding open to reveal a cavernous chamber filled with preservation cases and display units. Artifacts from dozens of worlds gleamed under soft lighting, each tagged with elaborate classification markers. The air carried the distinct scent of temporal stabilization fields. "Captain Selen." Mura's amber crystalline form emerged from between rows of artifacts. "I was concerned you might not come." "I almost didn't," Kira admitted, scanning the room for potential threats or exits. "Your delegation wasn't exactly supportive in today's session." "Politics and truth rarely align perfectly," Mura replied, her facets refracting light in complex patterns. "My fellow Zolothians calculate probabilities and outcomes. I seek historical accuracy above all else." She gestured toward the back of the repository. "Come, there's something you need to see." Mura led her through the labyrinth of preserved history to a small, nondescript door at the rear of the chamber. The access panel beside it appeared inactive. "This section isn't in the official repository inventory," Mura explained, placing her crystalline hand against the panel. The door slid open, revealing a smaller chamber beyond. "What you're about to see has been classified at the highest level for over 2 centuries. Kira followed the archivist into the hidden room and stopped short, her breath catching in her throat. Before them stood a simple preservation case. Inside was a tattered flag, the blue and white emblem of the United Earth Fleet, edges charred and fabric discolored by time and radiation. Beside it lay a commander's insignia and a data core of unmistakably human design. "The artifacts of Commander Alara Chen," Mura said softly, "the last human to stand before the council prior to your arrival." Kira approached the case slowly, reverence and shock warring within her. This shouldn't exist. According to our records, Commander Chen died with Earth's defense fleet. No artifacts were ever recovered. "The official records are incorrect," Mura replied. "Commander Chen survived the initial Vorex attack. She reached the council with evidence, critical evidence, but was denied audience. She died here, on this station, under circumstances that remain unclear." Kira's hand hovered over the preservation field. "What evidence did she bring?" "That is the central question." Mira's crystalline structure dimmed slightly, a Zolothian expression of regret. The data core is damaged, its contents mostly corrupted, but my analysis suggests it contained tactical information about the Vorex attack patterns that, as you noted in the archives, were uncharacteristic of Vorex behavior. You're suggesting the attack on Earth wasn't what it appeared to be, Kira said, the implication sending a chill through her. I suggest nothing, Captain. I merely preserve historical accuracy. Mura's facets shifted, creating prismatic patterns on the walls. But consider the timing. Commander Chen arrives with evidence, is denied audience, dies under mysterious circumstances, and immediately afterward, the Council declares Earth lost and establishes the empty chair tradition. The pieces were beginning to align in Kira's mind, forming a picture too terrible to fully contemplate. Who would have had the authority to deny a commander audience during a crisis of that magnitude? Only the Emergency War Council, a special body convened only during existential threats. Mura replied, its membership that year included General Vraxer's predecessor, Ambassador Rith Evan's ancestor, and representatives from all four empires, including the Zolothians, Kira noted, watching Mura carefully. Yes. The archivist's crystalline form pulsed with an amber glow that suggested emotional intensity unusual for her species. My own ancestor was among them. The knowledge has been passed down through my lineage, a burden of truth too dangerous to share but too important to forget. Kira's mind raced with implications. If the Council was complicit in Earth's fall, or at least in covering up the truth about it, then my presence here threatens more than just political stability. It threatens the founding narrative of the modern Council itself. Precisely. Mira moved to a hidden console and activated it. Which is why you are in grave danger. Captain, General Vraxer has convinced several delegations that your elimination is necessary for galactic security. He's deployed special operatives throughout the station with orders to find you, by any means necessary. I need to get this information to my fleet, Kira said urgently. And I need to present what I've learned at tomorrow's council session, assuming I live that long. The Thoraxians have locked down all standard communication channels, Mira replied. But there may be another way. She extracted a small crystal from her own structure, a piece of herself, Kira realized with shock. This contains everything I've discovered about Commander Chen's evidence, along with my analysis of the anomalies in the official record. It's key to your genetic signature. Only you can access it. Kira accepted the crystal fragment reverently. Why are you doing this, Mura? You're risking everything. The Zolothian's facets shifted in a pattern that Kira had come to recognize as her version of a smile. As I told you, Captain, inconsistencies disturb me greatly. The truth about Earth's fall has been the greatest inconsistency in our historical record for centuries. Resolving it is satisfying. A sudden explosion rocked the repository, sending artifacts crashing to the floor. Alarm systems blared as emergency containment fields activated around the more valuable relics. They found us, Mira said, moving toward a concealed exit at the back of the chamber. This passage leads to the lower maintenance levels. From there, you can access the communication hub in Sector 7. What about you? Kira asked, following quickly. I must return to my delegation. My absence would be noted and would only increase suspicion. Mira's crystalline hand touched Kira's shoulder briefly, an unprecedented gesture from a Zolothian. May clarity guide your path, Captain Selen. With that, Mira sealed the hidden chamber behind them and hurried back toward the main repository entrance, her crystalline form shifting to a more neutral coloration as she went. Kira didn't waste time. She navigated the maintenance passage at a run, the sounds of pursuit growing distant behind her. The station was in full security lockdown now. Finding a way to communicate with her fleet would be challenging, but not impossible. Years of surviving as a hunted species had made humans exceptionally resourceful. The passage eventually opened into a utility junction where several major systems intersected. Kira oriented herself quickly. Sector 7 would be 2 levels up and eastward along the station's radial axis. As she prepared to move, Her communication device vibrated once more. The message was brief, but sent her heart racing. Warning: Thoraxian battle group detected approaching station. Estimated time to weapons range, 47 minutes. President Lixara was warning her. The Thoraxians weren't just hunting Kira within the station, they were bringing in military reinforcements. The implications were clear. General Vraxer was prepared to take extreme measures to ensure the truth remained buried. Kira changed plans. Communication could wait. She needed to get to the council chamber immediately. If Vraxer was willing to bring battleships to a diplomatic station, the situation had escalated beyond political maneuvering. This was now about survival, not just her own, but potentially that of her entire species. The council chamber would be minimally staffed during night cycle, but it contained the station's central communication array, powerful enough to broadcast to all sectors simultaneously. If she could access it before Vraxer's forces arrived, navigating through maintenance sections and avoiding security patrols, Kira made her way toward the heart of the station. Along the way, she encountered a Voreol technician who, after a moment of startled recognition, silently pointed her toward an unmarked passage, another unexpected ally, perhaps influenced by President Lixara. The council chamber was eerily silent when she finally reached it, the empty chair at the center of the hexagonal table gleaming under subdued lighting. Kira moved quickly to the president's console, using the access codes she had memorized from fleet intelligence briefings. The system acknowledged her with surprising ease. Someone had already cleared her access path. Lixara again, or perhaps another ally she hadn't yet identified. Questions for later. Now, she needed to work quickly. Combining the data from Lixara's crystal with the sensor logs from Tlan and the historical evidence from Mura, Kira assembled a comprehensive presentation. The truth was emerging with disturbing clarity. Earth's destruction had not been a simple tragedy of war, but a deliberate sacrifice engineered by elements within the Council itself. The Vorex attack had been anticipated, perhaps even manipulated to target Earth specifically. Commander Chen had discovered this conspiracy and rushed to warn the Council, only to be silenced. And in the centuries since, the empty chair had stood as both memorial and reminder, a symbol of guilt masked as honor. But why? What could possibly justify such an action? The answer lay in the final piece of data, a fragment of Commander Chen's corrupted records that Mura had partially restored, Project Genesis, a joint research initiative between Earth scientists and representatives from all 4 Council species, focused on a technology so advanced it promised to revolutionize space travel, energy production, even the fundamental nature of sentient existence. A technology that Earth had threatened to withhold when political tensions with the Council reached breaking point. The station shuddered suddenly, klaxons blaring throughout the chamber. On the tactical displays, Kira could see the approaching Thoraxian battle group. They had arrived ahead of schedule and were powering weapons systems. She had run out of time. Activating the central comm array, Kira broadcast on all frequencies. Attention all Council delegations. This is Captain Kira Selen of the Earth Remnant Fleet. The station is under imminent threat from unauthorized Thoraxian military forces. I am releasing critical historical information to all terminals. The truth about Earth's fall must be known before more lives are lost. She transmitted the compiled evidence throughout the station just as the doors to the council chamber burst open. General Vraxer stormed in, flanked by heavily armed Thoraxian guards. "You've gone too far, human," he growled, weapon raised. "This ends now." "It's already too late, General," Kira replied calmly, stepping away from the console. "The truth is out. Your battle group's presence here only confirms the conspiracy." "Truth?" Vraxer laughed harshly. "You speak of truth when you don't even understand what happened? Earth wasn't destroyed because of politics or technology, human. It was destroyed because your species discovered something you were never meant to find, the true origin of the Vorex." Kira froze. "What?" "The Vorex weren't some random cosmic horror," Vraxer continued, his armored plates shifting in agitation. "They were a weapon, a failsafe created by the precursors who established the first council billions of years ago. A way to cleanse the galaxy if younger species developed too quickly, threatened too much change. That's impossible, Kira whispered, though even as she said it, pieces were falling into place in her mind. Earth scientists reverse-engineered precursor technology, found the control mechanisms for the Vorex. Can you imagine? A single species with the power to unleash or restrain a force designed to reset galactic civilization? Vraxar's sensory organs pulsed with something close to fear. The Council had no choice. Earth had to be sacrificed before your people fully understood what they had found. The chamber doors opened again. President Lixara entered, followed by Ambassador Rith Even, Archivist Mura, and representatives from each delegation. They had heard the broadcast, all of it, including Vraxar's confession. "Stand down, General," Lixara commanded, her voice carrying the full weight of Council authority. "Your forces will withdraw immediately." "You don't understand what's at stake," Vraxar protested, though his weapon lowered slightly. "We understand perfectly," Rith even said, his amphibious form rippling with barely contained emotion. "We've lived with this shame for centuries, hiding behind the empty chair while pretending to honor those we betrayed." On the tactical displays, new signatures appeared, a fleet emerging from hyperspace between the station and the Thraxian battle group. Not Earth vessels, but a mixed force bearing the insignias of all four Council empires. "I took the liberty of summoning the Joint Patrol Fleet," Lixara explained, noting Kira's surprised expression. "When I provided you with that data crystal, Captain, I knew where this path would lead. Some of us have worked for generations to prepare for this moment. The moment when the truth could finally emerge without destroying the Council itself." Mura stepped forward, her crystalline structure now pulsing with brilliant amber light. "The Zolothian consensus has reviewed the complete historical record as I've restored it. We calculate a 97.8% probability that continued deception would lead to catastrophic outcomes within the next decade. The truth, however painful, offers the only sustainable path forward." Vraxar's massive form seemed to deflate. "You fools! If humans reclaim the precursor technology, then we will face that challenge together, as a true council." Lixara interrupted firmly. "No more sacrificial species. No more empty chairs." She turned to Kira. "Captain Selene, on behalf of the Intergalactic War Council, I formally apologize for the crimes committed against Earth. The full truth will be acknowledged in our records, and reparations discussions will begin immediately." Her multifaceted eyes held Kira's gaze. "And the empty chair will be empty no more. Earth's voice will be heard again, not as a ghost of the past, but as a full member of our shared future." The moment was interrupted by an urgent communication alert. The main display activated to show a Nimari officer aboard one of the newly arrived vessels. "Madam President, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the dead zone. Consistent with Vorex patterns, but different. Something's changing." Kira stepped forward. "May I?" Lixara nodded, and Kira accessed the sensor data. Her eyes widened as she analyzed the readings. "It's not the Vorex," she said quietly. "At least, not as we've known them. These patterns match theoretical models from Project Genesis. The precursor control mechanisms are being activated, but not to attack, to transform." "By whom?" Ambassador Rith even asked, his gill slits pulsing rapidly. Kira looked up, a mix of wonder and apprehension in her expression. "By the Earth Remnant Fleet. They must have continued the research all these years, hidden beyond Council space." She turned to Vraxar. "You were right to fear us, General, but wrong about our intentions." The tactical display updated to show new vessels emerging from the dead zone, ships of unmistakably human design. But unlike anything Kira had ever seen, they moved with impossible grace, their energy signatures suggesting technology far beyond current Council capabilities. A communication request flashed on the console. Lixara nodded, and Kira accepted the connection. The face that appeared on the screen was human, yet somehow more. A woman with eyes that seemed to hold the depth of stars. This is Admiral Eliana Chen of the Earth Genesis Fleet. We received your transmission. Captain Selene, the truth is finally known. Chen, Kira whispered in shock. As in Commander Alara Chen? Her descendant, the Admiral replied with a slight smile. We've waited a long time for this moment. Captain, the Vorex were never meant to be a weapon of destruction, but a tool of transformation. The precursors didn't create them to reset civilization. They created them to elevate it when the time was right. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. 2 centuries of guilt, fear, and deception, all based on a fundamental misunderstanding of precursor intentions. We invite representatives from all council species to join us. Admiral Chen continued. The transformation has begun, but it need not be limited to humanity. The precursors left their legacy for all sentient life. President Lixara stepped forward, her ancient eyes glistening with emotion rarely displayed by her species. On behalf of the Council, we accept your invitation, Admiral, and we offer our deepest regrets for the past. The past is prologue, Admiral Chen replied. What matters now is the future we build together. As arrangements were made for a formal delegation to meet with the Genesis fleet, Kira found herself standing before the empty chair, the symbol that had defined her mission from the beginning. What happens now? Mira asked, joining her. With Earth recognized and the truth revealed, is your mission complete? Kira placed her hand on the chair, feeling its smooth surface beneath her fingers. For centuries, it had stood as a memorial to a lie. Now, it would serve as the foundation for a new beginning. Not complete, she replied, looking up at the vast star field visible through the chamber's viewports. Just beginning. 1 month later, the Intergalactic War Council convened in a new chamber, one built aboard a joint station at the edge of what had once been called the Dead Zone, now renamed Genesis Point. Representatives from all 4 traditional empires sat alongside delegates from the Earth Genesis fleet and, surprisingly, evolved Vorex collectives that had been transformed by the activated precursor technology. Where once a hexagonal table had symbolized rigid division, a circular configuration now encouraged equality and cooperation. And at a position of honor sat Captain Kira Selene, no longer at an empty chair, but at one filled with purpose and possibility. The ancient star that had been shattered centuries ago was showing signs of regeneration. Another miracle of precursor science unlocked by the collaborative efforts of all species. Its light cast a warm glow across the chamber as President Lixara called the historic session to order. For 237 years, we built our council upon a foundation of fear and deception, she began, her voice carrying to all corners of the chamber. Today, we begin anew, with truth as our cornerstone and unity as our strength. Kira looked around at the assembled delegates, former enemies now cautious allies, suspicious rivals, now reluctant partners. The path ahead would not be easy. Centuries of mistrust could not be erased in a single month. And the power of the precursor technology they were only beginning to understand presented both opportunity and danger. But as she caught Mira's prismatic gaze across the chamber, saw the determined set of Ambassador Rith Evan's aquatic features, and even noted the begrudging attention of General Vraxor, she felt something she had not expected to find in this mission: hope. The empty chair was empty no more, and neither was the future.